Hello and welcome back to the Pit Wall Podcast, where this week we're going to be breaking down the Austrian Grand Prix.
This is a race that featured Max Verstappen going fastest in every single session, which is impressive for a sprint race weekend, and more at least an average of 2 track limit violation laps deleted per lap of the Grand Prix, which is kind of insane. Yeah. So in lieu of doing a quali in 60, there is so much to cover that I just kind of want to do especially because, there's a lot to be said about this sprint format. Yeah. I don't think we're quite at the correct format yet, but, qualifying for the race comes on Friday, but let's actually talk about that second. I think that it'll make more sense to just talk about the sprint stuff first.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd just go right into the sprint shootout, which is sprint qualifying.
Yeah.
And just talk about the general overview of things that happened. We don't have to go like drivers for this. Let's just talk about some bullet points that happened. Yeah. So I would say the biggest thing that happened and this is, I don't know if you could call this biased, but the biggest thing that happened in SQ1 is that Lewis didn't make it to Q2. SQ2. I hate saying that. It doesn't roll off the tongue. So let's just get right into it. Did Max impede Lewis? Yes or no? Or did Lewis impede Max? Or are they both equal? What do you think?
I don't know. It was...
So if you look up if you're listening to this, look up the onboard. We can't put it on screen because of copyright issues, but you can definitely find it. Actually, just go to our TikTok. You can watch it on our TikTok. There's an onboard of Lewis's angle on there. So basically, Lewis is coming around turn 10, starts going for a hot lap. At the same time, Max also starts to go for a hot lap, but he was significantly behind Lewis. But I guess his car is so fast that he caught up to him, or maybe Lewis didn't get going well enough.
Lewis moved to the right, didn't he?
He was over to the right until it was time for him to go, and then he launched and he was all the way over
on the left and then went to the right.
Well, Lewis was all the way over on the left, which is the racing line in the dry. Yeah. But yeah, so and then they end up equal, and then Max kind of overtakes him. Well, he doesn't kind of overtake him; he overtakes him. Yeah. So, what do you think? And I should mention, at the time, Max already had a fastest time on the board.
I would say yes, yeah.
Because, yes to what? That Max was impeded
Lewis.
Max impeded Lewis. Okay.
Yeah. Well, because Lewis, like you said, was in front of Max on his hot lap. I mean,
F1 Twitter went kind of ballistic on this one.
Yeah.
And the reasoning is, at the same time, Leclerc gets a penalty around the same place, a little bit further back. But I saw this really cool video of someone did an opacity overlay of the two, and they are the same. They're the same thing. The same thing happened.
Yeah.
And I just find it. I'm not even mad that it didn't get a penalty necessarily. I'm mad that it didn't even get it.
Otherwise.
Well, yeah, but okay, no. I said, why isn't this a penalty? Because I left it in because I wanted to see what people thought.
You didn't say, you didn't say on Max or on.
Yeah,
Lewis.
yeah, and Max's onboard wasn't available at the time for some reason, so that's the only reason I posted that one. Gotcha. I was gonna do both anyway, but I tried to make it like who's. So anyway, it got the people stirred up, that's for sure. So anyway, that was the biggest thing that happened. So Lewis goes P18, and it freaking sucked. And I was very upset.
I figured you weren't too happy about that.
This whole weekend was just worst case scenario for Mercedes without DNFing pretty much. So, so anyway, I mentioned Leclerc gets a penalty.
Who didn't?
Well, yeah. Well, getting impeded. We're talking impeding.
Fair enough.
Then, if my pain wasn't enough, in SQ2, Russell doesn't get to come out because they have a hydraulic issue, and boom, Russell starting P15 for the sprint.
That sucks.
So there's a Red Bull 1-2 in it, and I mean,
your heart was a little broken after that.
I don't care
about
Red
Bull for the sprint, but
yeah. Well, especially because the day before, which we'll talk about in a minute, Russell got P11.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh, come on.
Just a rough weekend.
I mean, do you have anything else to add to the sprint shootout specifically?
No, not this shootout.
Okay, well, let's talk about the sprint race, which arguably, in my opinion, was the best action of the weekend, I think.
Yeah, we got a little bit from Red Bull.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So why don't you talk about that?
So start of the sprint race, it's Max and Checo.
It's wet. We should mention that.
Yeah, it is wet. And Checo gets ahead of Max and basically squeezes him into the grass.
Yep.
And then a turn later, Max squeezes Checo off of the track, and both were on the radio, very angry, very angry about it. And after the sprint, you could see Max. He didn't actually run, but he went straight to Checo and was like, "What happened?" They sorted it all out. Checo said he didn't see him, so. Maybe he might have been just saying that. Well, who knows?
I don't know if Checo did it on purpose, but I genuinely do not think that Max squeezed him off on purpose.
Max, you don't think Max did it on purpose?
No, it was so wet. I think he locked up.
You think Max did?
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think Checo did it on purpose.
To the extent that normally I'm Mr. like, oh, look, here he is again. But like genuinely to the extent that he did it.
Wow.
I don't think he did it on purpose. I think he was going to squeeze him hard. I don't think he meant to just go like straight.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like he was, because he literally doesn't turn.
Late.
Yeah, he literally doesn't turn. Yeah. So that was actually like super exciting to watch.
Yeah.
The person that got the most screwed during all of this was Lando Norris, who went from P3 to P10 in one corner.
Man, that was
brutal.
Dude. I was rewatching the sprint today and I saw it again and I was like, man.
Oh, I should also mention that I promised to watch the sprint stuff with Kendra, our friend, and but she had to work all day and I was like, well, I'm not going to wait all day. So I watched it and sprint day was terrible for Mercedes, and then I had to watch it again. So I'm a trooper. Anyway,
rough weekend for Nick.
But yeah, so Lando got screwed. Yeah. Now Mercedes, however, were absolutely flying in the sprint race, especially at the beginning, where before turn one, Lewis made up 5 positions by going on the outside. Have you seen his onboard of the outside? Like, it's crazy.
Maybe.
He goes fully to the right to where his tires are just barely on the white line, and there's literally nobody ahead of him. No one went that high, so he just goes like and goes past everybody.
Oh, I think I've seen that. I think I saw it.
Yeah. So,
I remember seeing that now.
You know, there was lots of like cool overtakes. I think another good thing was Nico Hülkenberg started in P3. Sorry, P4.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Now my brain is breaking.
No, he started in P4.
Okay, he started in P4 and then overtakes Checo at one point.
Yep.
It is running P2 at one point. It was awesome.
It was insane.
Did you think he was going to get did you have like a maybe he could get a podium?
No.
I didn't think so.
I didn't think so. I mean, because it was so early, if it was, which it wouldn't have been later in the race either, but if it was later in the race and that happened, I was like, here's their shot. Yeah. But
well, see, also, I mean, let's not debate this for too long, but like, would that have broken his thing of never getting a podium? Because it's not a podium. Like, I don't think it statistically counts as a podium. They don't even go on the podium for this.
That's true.
It
would be
gray
statistically
area.
Correct, but
that he did get a podium.
Statistically,
I don't think they count it as a podium.
Really?
I think they just call it a sprint podium.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, I don't think, like Ferrari got their 800th podium this weekend. I don't think they counted sprint podiums.
Oh yeah,
but I'm not sure. I genuinely don't know. Someone F1 people tell us in the comments.
Yeah.
Max won this by 21 seconds in 24 laps in the wets. I mean, and he never put on soft like he ran inters the whole race.
Yep.
How?
He's like the best driver at tire management, I swear.
That's debatable. In the wet, probably. Checo.
I don't know. I mean, even last race.
Yeah, it's true.
He went the longest. He had the longest stint on his tires. I can't remember what he had. I think intermediates.
Yeah, it was a long
or
time.
not intermediates. Mediums.
Yeah.
Mediums.
I'm just thinking of other stuff we could mention. Other than that, I mean, Bottas they tried something with strategy that totally failed because they tried to put him on dries at the beginning. That didn't work. Haas probably, I think, actually have the pace to could have had P2 in that condition if it was like 10 laps shorter, because they absolutely melt their tires for some reason. So that's unfortunate. George Russell was paid off with some smart strategy. He called dry tires the earliest and worked his way up to get a point, and went and lost seventh place by 0.009 seconds, and within a photo finish with Esteban Ocon, which I thought was really cool.
That was pretty cool.
Which, now that everything that happened after this race, maybe Ocon was having some track limit stuff during the sprint that we could have looked for. Let's see. I think that's about it. Yeah. Anything else for the sprint? I don't think.
We pretty much covered everything that was worth talking about, I think.
Lando got he had a kind of a rough sprint.
Yeah.
But it's P9 just out of the points.
And for this weekend also, it was Lando got an upgrade.
Yeah, okay.
But Piastri did not. So.
And I don't know. I'm not sure why. I'm assuming
I heard that it was they didn't have time to get it. So they focused on Lando's first and didn't have time to get it out.
That makes sense to me. Just like why there was one. I mean, the Williams did the same thing, but like.
I don't think it was. I think they were both trying to get it out for this weekend, but they just didn't. So they're going to have both at Silverstone. Because
Williams wanted to compare their two cars, and that's why they didn't do it. But anyway, all right.
McLaren just knew it was bad. They didn't want to compare.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't. Yeah. And yeah, that's what we'll say about that. All right, so I have more thoughts, but I want to keep this moving. So let's go to qualifying. I won't do a qualifying 60. Let's just kind of talk through it really fast. Main highlight of the whole qualifying, I guess you could say, was Checo only getting up to P15. This set off like alarms and like troops coming in. I don't know, like everybody was freaking out because like this is the fourth time in a row Checo didn't make Q2. Q3. And he this is the first time since 2008 that a Red Bull has done it that many times in a row, despite the fact that other years they had worse cars. So I don't know what's up with Checo in qualifying, man. But then the next day he comes out and gets P2.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. I was worried at that point.
Yeah.
Because we'd been talking about a little bit of like if Checo should really be scared for a seat, which I still think he could be.
And this is where it comes into play too, and I should have mentioned this earlier. A lot of this had to do with track limits, which was like a big thing, and we're going to talk about it more during the race. But like Hamilton had set the fastest time of the session that got deleted, which sucked. And that's because I'm not saying he had the fastest car, it's just because of the way the track was kind of wet and then it was drying out, all stuff for sprint qualifying. So Checo had like 3 or 4 lap times deleted in Q2. So, I mean, Christian Horner says he's safe and is also angry with him. So, like, what do you think? Give me your, 30-second speculation on, is Checo safe at this moment? Because, I mean, he just got a podium.
At this moment, yes. He, this year, I think it's fine. Next year is going to be we're ready to put someone else in your seat mid-season if something happens.
Yeah, possibly. There's a lot that can happen, and we're going to talk about it a little later. But there's a lot that can happen in these Red Bull seats. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, Horner is relentless with drivers, so you never really know.
Horner might just wake up one morning and be like, I can't deal with Max anymore.
I don't know about that one. I think the CEO of Red Bull would come kicking on his door if he did that.
Yeah, I don't even know who that is actually. Who's the CEO of all their racing department? They never. I mean, Horner is team principal, but he might be CEO of the F1 team.
Yeah, he is. He is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he always was though. But it's weird because Dr. Marco's also, their organization confuses me. Anyway, moving on in qualifying, George Russell, like I mentioned before, P11 just didn't get a lap together. Both Aston Martins below Lewis Hamilton, who had a pretty mediocre lap, I would say. So Aston did not have a good weekend, which I'm also going to talk about. Both Ferraris up there. Leclerc almost getting pole was pretty awesome.
He was so close.
He was very close. I really wanted him to get pole, which is I'm not used to saying.
Max's time was a 104.391. Leclerc's was a 104.439.
Gosh, it was so
that
close.
shows how close it is.
It was really exciting. It was really exciting to watch. So if you missed anything, I would recommend watching qualifying of the regular race and then the sprint race if you're going to watch two things.
Just to put it into perspective, the gap between Max and Nico Hülkenberg is 0.6 seconds.
Yeah, this is unheard. Like for old F1, this would never.
Nico was
happen.
P8.
This would never have happened.
Yeah.
So I'm really appreciating the fact that the midfield is so close, despite the fact that it keeps kicking my team in the butt all the time.
Yeah.
So that's about it. I think we can mention for now. Oh, Lando also got P4. That's very significant.
I was so happy.
I mean, let's go ahead and talk about it because I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
How do you think? How much was Lando and how much was these updates? Because and I just want to throw this out there and then I'll let you talk. Lando's a god of this track. His podium is here, all this stuff. So I think there's definitely a ratio there. But what do you think?
I think it was Lando. McLaren's bringing it back. It seems like because Lando's back. Like obviously this is just a one race thing, but I mean this is what I call him Mr. Consistent last year.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yeah, for sure.
This is where he would land nearly every race, would be between P4 and P6.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's all because of the car, especially here.
Yeah. And
like you said, this is his track.
Piastri, he got P13 in qualifying. Yeah. So, there's definitely a significance to their upgrade. And again, like we said, they're bringing their final package to Silverstone. Or not their, I don't know if it's their final package. I think it's their last really big upgrade of the year. So yeah.
Which is showing promise. I mean, beat out the Aston Martins like pretty well.
I would say this car is probably very, very close to the worst team between Aston Martin, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Like they're just below that gap now. Which is significant. You go back and listen to
their main competitor is.
Go listen to our first episode of the season. We were destroying them.
Yeah.
Remember, this is the people that were switching out the steering wheel during a race.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Man. Oh my gosh.
What a turnaround. I feel like this always happens for McLaren. The beginning of the season's always terrible.
Yeah. Well, they're in a spot now, like how you said, behind Mercedes, Ferrari, and Aston, where they're competing again with Alpine.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And Alpine ended up losing some points at the end of the weekend. So, all right. So before we get into the race, I want to mention something that happened at the beginning of the weekend that I've been saving to talk about because the race will probably go pretty fast.
Yeah.
So Lewis Hamilton made some news on Thursday because he didn't mean for this to be as big of a thing as it did. He didn't come out with like a notepad and be like, oh. So Hamilton said that there should be a rule that you cannot start developing your car until a certain time for the following year. Mm-hmm. So what that means is he said August 1st. So like right now, Red Bull is so far ahead, they can start working on the next car right now.
Yep.
So he suggested that people, there be a rule. And of course, Max's response, which I expected, was, well, they never said that before. And then Max made the mega mistake of having the Lewis Hamilton army come after him, including myself, because there is so many examples, and I have an article that I will put on screen for this from March of 2015.
I was waiting for this. I knew this was going to happen on
March
this
12th, 2015. This is after Lewis has won a single championship at Mercedes, and this is only his second, okay? And he says another year of Mercedes dominance will bore F1 fans. This is what he says before the season started. They didn't even know their car was good that year yet or not. And there's plenty of examples of him saying this over the years. So I'm not calling Max a hypocrite necessarily, because he didn't say like, well, we should be able to do whatever we want. But he needs to do his research because he had time to prepare for his response.
I don't know. I'm sure that. Well, I'm sure Max has said something similar. I mean, he's been.
Oh well, yeah. Also,
dominating this
Red
season.
Bull also almost quit the F1 over this as well.
Over what?
Over there not being enough limits on Mercedes back in the day. They almost killed their whole team over this.
Wow.
You can go look it up. I think it was end of 2020 is when all those articles are from. Christian Horner gave some interviews saying that we'll quit if this keeps going.
Yeah. I guess he was just saying like there wasn't an official FIA request.
But that wasn't an official FIA request.
I thought he went to the
No,
FIA.
it was just in an interview.
Oh.
But
okay.
he might.
Well,
he might. I don't know. Like at this point, if Lewis is saying it either way, I kind of feel like I mean, maybe I am calling Max a hypocrite. If Max said it before and now changed his mind, but Lewis has been saying it on both sides of the success, I feel like he's got a point. Do you disagree?
I don't.
You're like, no, don't kill the car.
Neither confirm nor deny.
Well, like, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I don't think y'all could start working on your car 5 minutes before next season, and I think it'll be okay. So
just keep the exact same car.
But anyway, I wasn't heated about this. I just opened it up and I was like, I know Lewis isn't this stupid. He wouldn't be this much of a hypocrite. So, because he literally said in the interview, he said, and I said this before. So, I love when arguments happen over the press rather than in person. Because if Lewis had just walked up to Max and been like, hey, I don't think you guys should develop your car, and Max would have been like, you never said that. And he was going to be like, yes, I did. That would have been the whole conversation.
I've got a counter article.
Oh, okay.
That Max Verstappen says that he hopes his Red Bull competitors catch up soon because he might be getting bored winning all the races.
Yeah. Let's talk about that too for a second. The man is going to quit because he's bored. Come on now. I will say.
Well,
he wants to race other series.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was watching. There's like a clip of him on his stream talking about different series he would want to drive in outside of Formula One.
Yeah, I remember
and
it's like
he absolutely
Le Mans.
could.
Yeah, I would love for him to do Le Mans, personally. Yeah. With that said, I think Red Bull's making one mistake right now. And I mean literally one. I cannot name another mistake Red Bull's making right now, as much as I hate to say it. And I think they are reining Max Verstappen in too much right now. Because they, and
like,
I get it.
They're like getting everything out of him now?
No. They're keeping him from doing what he wants to do a little bit. They're not letting him race at this Nürburgring thing for fun, which I get.
Oh, yeah.
Because they want him to be safe. He can't race Le Mans, and that's an FIA rule. But like, there's other things, and Max is starting to defy that. And we're going to mention, there's something that happened at the end of this race that I'll let you talk about when we get there, that I'm not saying it's like dire. Like, and this is like this big of a, for the audio listeners, I've had my fingers really small, this big of a complaint. But I just worry Max needs to be happy, and he doesn't like all these changes and all this stuff. So like, he's kind of like, dang it, what's his name? I mention this guy all the time, and I always forget his name. Crazy dude from the Bulls basketball team in the 90s. He would always go to Vegas. He had the crazy
Rodman?
Yes, Dennis Rodman. He's not that crazy. I'm just saying, like, they would let Dennis Rodman go to Vegas and miss a practice or two.
Because he'd show up in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he was so, like, amped up, he would be, like, pedaling on the sideline. So anyway, that was two little tangents I want to talk about. Let's get into the race if you don't have anything to add to this.
No, that's good.
Okay. Go ahead. Tell me about Red Bull's race.
So for Max, like you said, we'll start with Checo, actually.
Okay.
Like you said, started from P15, came back to P2, as you mentioned before. It kind of brought back my confidence for him, but it also is just still like qualifying kind of cemented that fear in the back of my head.
Well, he finished P3 in the race.
Sorry.
He finished P2 in the sprint race.
P2 is in the sprint race. My bad.
It's confusing. I've made many mistakes almost. So continue.
Double podium for Red Bull though, which was good. Max obviously finished P1, and for the first time since Miami, didn't lead a part of the race.
I know.
Leclerc led from the 25th to the 34th lap, and
it was that long.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was way longer than I thought it was.
He also stopped on lap 70 out of the 71 lap race to pit for softs, which was actually 2.4 second pit, which I thought was
that's pretty fast.
Pretty fast.
They didn't have the fastest though.
No, they didn't.
McLaren did.
Which he went for the fastest lap, and he achieved it. So, like I said, 1-2 for Red Bull, or no, double podium for Red Bull. I'm thinking of the sprint again.
Yep.
So it was a good race.
What did you think about that Max pitting? Because it came out later, ESPN reported this, that his team told him no, and he came in anyway.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it's kind of like you said. He's trying to have fun.
So the risk he kind of put himself in.
He had about a 25-second lead to Leclerc.
Yes, this is true. Yeah. But later, we'll talk about this at the end, but there were many penalties added later, and he won the race by 5.1 seconds.
Yeah.
So it was close to where if he had...
Did he have any track limit
penalties? He had 2.
Oh, okay. But he had already
never got a black and white
right?
flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he had gone out 3 times on that lap or something, and they gave him a penalty, and then they had messed up the pit stop by an extra 10th. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It could have been really bad.
Yeah, he could have lost the race over. Wow. Imagine if that's how the Red Bull perfected season was killed by
by Max going for fastest lap.
But no, he kept it in the limits and got the fastest.
Wow.
Lap.
Well,
it was close, man.
Yeah.
It was close.
He's trying to have a little bit of fun.
But I mean, I'm sure they would have said, they didn't say that on the radio at all. Like, hey, you're getting close on turn limits. Like, they never said that. I mean, the man could just drive down the center of the track and still win this race. So, anyway, so is that all for Red Bull?
Yeah. It was just for Max. Checo was like the main part of this race that was for Red Bull, because Max obviously held the lead for majority of the race. But I mean, Checo was flying through the pack, man.
Yeah, he really did.
It was insane, but really glad for him to do that. I think that shows that he can pull it off. It's just he wasn't for some reason in the past few races.
Yeah. So Mercedes, I wrote this: bad day, bad day, bad day, bad day. I wrote it like that. Because Lewis, after penalties, which let's just go ahead and acknowledge it, after there were so many penalties during the race. Then afterward, Aston Martin protested the race. It was upheld, and they dealed out a whole other slew of penalties to a bunch of people, one of them being Lewis Hamilton, which dropped him all the way down to P8. He was just miserable. He was the first one to get it, mainly, I think, because of Lando, potentially, because Lando was calling out all of his things, which is fine.
That's true.
So yeah, Toto gets on the radio and says, "Lewis, we know the car is bad. Please drive it." And I'm just sitting there, and my Mercedes stuff, just like, what is my team? What is my team?
I'm not gonna lie, I got a little happy when he was just like, when he said that, because it was a bit of like a just shut up and drive.
Yeah, just drive.
Yeah. Especially because like I can't remember what it was. He had said 2 things to Lewis, right? It was
I can't remember what the other. Everybody's gonna get penalties, Lewis.
Yeah. Like, because Lewis, I mean, everybody was complaining about it, but they really showed Lando and Lewis talking about the penalties the most during the race. So Lewis kept calling it out like, hey, why aren't there any penalties for this? After saying multiple times like, hey, went track limits. Hey, track limits. And I thought it was hilarious to hear Toto come on and basically just tell him to shut up and drive.
So then everybody was like, oh, this is the start of the end, like all this stuff. And then Lewis, or I don't remember which one was said, but one of them said, you should hear our phone calls.
Toto said that.
Yeah, and I thought that was funny because I'm sure they're like, Lewis picks up and is like, why does the car suck? And he's like, I don't know. So I don't know. I was just, the way I'm looking at this is I'm hoping all of the bad luck was exercised. Is that the word for it? Like an exorcist? Whatever. It was gotten out of out of Mercedes so they can have a good weekend this upcoming weekend. Because I'm trying to keep my hopes reasonable, but every time I get on Twitter, it's like all F1 fans want Lewis to win the Silverstone Grand Prix this weekend. I'm like, don't give me hope.
False. I want Lando to win it.
Okay, fine. if his car doesn't weigh an extra 1,000 pounds. Russell also kind of had like a quiet race. He had a poor qualifying. He ended P7. We never really heard from him. He got overtaken a few times by like the likes of Checo and like that. So it's just a bad weekend for Mercedes. I mean, like I said, it could have been a DNF. I will take this.
For sure.
And somehow we're still slightly ahead of Aston Martin, which I didn't think was possible while watching the race. So I'll take it. But yeah, so that's all I got to say about that. So do you want to go Ferrari next or what?
Let's talk about, well, maybe we should save Lando for later.
Yeah, I'll save Lando for later.
Yeah, let's talk about Ferrari. I'll start with Sainz, who started in P6, or finished in P6 after starting P3. It was he had a decent race, but he had a 10-second penalty. Checo was flying. Lando got past him. So it was just...
Sainz did nothing wrong.
Yeah, honestly.
So Leclerc got P2. But the reason I said it like that is there's actually people online right now that are still praising Ferrari's strategy for this race. And did you watch their pit stop?
Oh, yeah.
They called them in late, mind you, when they had multiple laps to call them in sooner. And I think mathematically cost Carlos the podium.
Oh,
because, I mean, maybe Checo would have got him. But still.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But he got held up.
Mm-hmm.
I think his stop was like 13 seconds or something.
Yeah.
Like, it was just so like... And then, if that wasn't enough, their one good strategy call, which was to do a 2-stop strategy, commit to it early. They call into Leclerc 2 laps into his second stint and go, hey, so we're thinking about doing a 3-stop. What do you think? A 3-stop strategy? Look at the numbers. He would have been in P8 if they'd done a 3-stop strategy. Like, the fools. So, I'm sorry, but, like, I can't still. Like, they had a decent strategy weekend for Ferrari. That's like, do you hear the amount of qualifiers I added on that? They had a decent strategy for Ferrari. That would have been a bad strategy weekend for anybody else. So anyway, they got P2, they got P4. Good for them. Close the gap on Aston Martin. It's going to be a tight race for P2 the rest of the season, I think.
Yeah.
And with that said, let's move on to Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, speaking of, kind of like how you said, George Alonso had a quiet race. He wasn't really shown much on the broadcast or anything like that. We didn't really hear too much other than Aston Martin, of course, going to the stewards for all the penalties. But he started P7 and ended P5. So, he got points.
Yep.
That's really about all we got for him.
And Stroll finished P9, but I have something to say, which is, hey, Fernando Alonso, do you remember back when you guys didn't get a podium in Spain and you were like, hey, that's going to be the last race without a podium. Don't you worry. You had 2 races this weekend. What happened? I've been waiting to say that, and I didn't have to wait that long. I had to wait one whole weekend to say that. Like, I get it was probably just hype. He's trying to get everybody like, yeah. But, like, you weren't close. Like, you were never really in contention for a podium this whole weekend.
What happened to him, I guess, this week? Stroll, I wasn't too shocked, but Alonso was like, I mean, he gained 2 positions. So, I mean,
everybody's saying, like, he's never started in the top 3 at this track. Like, just not his place.
Yeah, fair enough.
But he didn't get a podium, so what happened? I'm just asking.
We're here to cause drama.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, we're gonna jump to a different way than we normally go. Let's talk about Albon. I feel like.
Oh, okay.
Albon was my man of the weekend, other than Lando Norris, because this man is just a legend at defending and all this stuff. And the poor guy came home with no points this weekend somehow, despite his constant stellar performances. And he couldn't have done any better, in my opinion. And he got P11 in the race. He drove his heart out. I mean,
Albon is becoming one of my more liked drivers. He's been performing really well in a Williams.
Yeah. No, I'm very impressed. There's nothing
he's
bad.
He's been consistently in the midfield-ish.
I mean, it's just a shame he didn't get points. Like, that's all I can say. It's like he drove qualifying both times. He was very consistent the whole weekend. Like, And with that said, tell us about Sargent.
He got out of P20.
Whoa!
Let's go.
In the driver's standings too. He's no longer last in the driver's standings.
He's not. Oh my gosh. I was once the penalties came through, I was like,
oh, it's over.
Does he have 20 seconds, 30 seconds? So Logan finished P13, which I think is a good step considering like how we talked about Albon's been finishing around that.
He's only 2 behind
races.
Albon.
So that's not bad. Was handed a 10-second penalty post race.
Didn't matter.
Yeah, it wouldn't have changed anything, but still P13 for Logan. I think that'll boost his confidence a little bit.
And they've been saying, we got to get to these European tracks he's driven on. Well, we're here and he's delivering. So he needs another good weekend next weekend.
I agree.
I really, really think they could get points. They could maybe even get double points if the right things happen. There's always a wreck at Silverstone. There's always something that goes crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe, I know I'm talking a lot of hype. I went from being like, Sargent's not going to have a seat till he could get double. But like, I just think there's a chance that he could get his point at Silverstone, which would be big, like, America, July 4th. He won the race last year for F2. So like on July 4th. Wait, was it? No, it was July 3rd. All right, whatever. But point is, we were getting ready to send Britain the documents.
There you go.
Okay, so we were like, the Squire was like rolling it up. Anyway,
he was handing it to the pigeon.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, a team that didn't have enough of a like a good race, I guess you could say. I don't know. I was trying to find a word for it. Was Haas. P18 for K-Mag, and a
DNF for Hulkenberg.
Yeah, just a really rough. Do you know what happened with Hulkenberg?
He had power unit issues. That was all that was said on their, what's it called? Their breakdown.
Yeah. So I don't know. So there's nothing to say. I mean, they had a great sprint. We gave them credit for that, but after that, it's just kind of like,
they're back to doing Haas things.
Yeah, for sure. My Haas, I'm almost there. I'm in my like 8th week of therapy of Haas delusion syndrome. So I'm getting through it.
You'll join me soon of being done with them.
All right, someone I'm really excited for you to talk about is Ocon. So,
dude, he's a record breaker. Let me tell you.
Oh, for sure.
So Ocon was handed 4 penalties in this race, amounting to 30 seconds of time taken from his final or his finishing time.
Yep. Set the record.
Still put him at P14. So it could have been worse, but
it couldn't have. It couldn't have been much worse. He could have DNF'd, I guess.
Yeah, but
the memes have been hilarious of like, this is the track layout Ocon was driving.
It was amazing. I saw when the list came out of all of the people that had penalties, and you're scrolling, you see 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5, 10, 10, 10, 15, 15, 20, 30. I'm like, oh, Lord.
What happened?
This man just did not like this track layout, decided to make his own.
I mean, maybe we should listen to him.
I
don't know. All I know is they need to put more gravel on this track to just keep people from going off, because it happens every year. This is even worse.
Yeah.
So, Gasly P10, thanks to Daddy Stroll, who, he had an okay weekend. I mean, I wouldn't say it was anything super significant. Alpine's just kind of milling out there right now. All of a sudden they pop up and you're like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah.
But 1 point for them is not great. So, let's talk about De Vries. Yeah, dude, you read my mind.
Dude, we just got it. Another bad weekend for AlphaTauri.
Yep.
So Nick De Vries finished P17 after starting P20. He got 15 seconds of penalties, and
that's it.
I just don't see it getting any better for him, dude.
So they've given him 4 races, which I don't know if this counted as one, to improve. Dr. Marco said, or they're going to switch him out for Liam Lawson, which is what I've been saying. But which is also funny.
He sent me a long text about saying Liam Lawson could
I've been switching though, because the whole season last year I was like, Nick DeVries is getting a seat, and then as soon as he starts driving, I was like, all right, now Liam Lawson
Nick DeVries is losing his seat.
But have I been wrong? If I was a betting man, I would be making bank on these.
Okay, here's the thing: is Nick DeVries in like a Schumacher situation?
I think there's
is
no
it
return.
AlphaTauri, or is it no return for?
No, I mean, like, I think there's I think he's done already. I think they've already made their mind up
like
about
he's
him.
not going to be an AlphaTauri at least,
or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Which let me just say, Yuki got P19. It sucked.
Yeah.
Terrible weekend. But they did announce that they're going to rename the team. I sent Dawson another long text. See, I try and wait till we get to the podcast, but my brain just can't stop.
Yeah.
So I got to get it out. So I officially think they're going to name them Ford Red Bull for the next year's season. Everybody's saying it's too soon, but I just can't think of another name they could name them that wouldn't upset somebody.
Yeah.
They could also call them Orlen Racing, but I don't think they pay enough for that level of title sponsorship. Yeah. So I think they will be Ford Red Bull Racing, and Red Bull will be Red Bull Ford Racing. Kind of like if you've seen Ford versus Ferrari or know about this.
Yeah.
When Ford tried to buy Ferrari, they were going to have a team called Ferrari Ford and Ford Ferrari, kind of like that. And Ford Ferrari was going to be the name of the company, and Ferrari Ford was going to be the name of the race team. So
okay.
That's the reason I thought of it. Who knows? It could be someone entirely different, but I was looking at all their sponsors. I looked at Red Bull's brands. There's no other big brand that Red Bull would want to name their team after.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense.
So
I think it could work.
Let's talk about Alfa Romeo. If you want to give me a menu.
Finished P12 and was one of the very few that didn't have penalties.
His meme that he posted was awesome.
It was amazing.
Go look at his Instagram. It's a legend. Valtteri Bottas. I mean, I feel like we never have anything to say about Alfa Romeo anymore.
No.
P15. That's it. I mean, he did something kind of notable in the sprint by trying something different, but he's just milling around out there. I listened to a podcast with him recently, and he seems very confident that he's going to get another seat next year. So he knows something that we don't, maybe. But I don't know. This team just kind of seems like they're just chilling out there.
Yeah.
So
they're just surviving.
And lastly, I'll do Piastri first. He had no upgrades, so thus the result was P16. So without further ado, let's talk about the man of the weekend, Lando Norris.
With the upgrades, driver of the day, Mr. Consistency is back.
Yep.
For now, at least. Started P4 and crossed the finish line at P5. But thanks to all the penalties, ended up back in P4.
Yeah.
And also check out his Instagram, because he posted a picture saying, we got P5 and driver of the day. And then he posted a picture where he looks even happier that says, no, we're P4, baby. And, man, I was so happy to see Lando Norris in P4.
Yeah. Incredible performance. Something McLaren desperately needed and has put energy into their biggest race of the year, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of which, Dawson hadn't seen it yet because he was doing more work than I was today. They have announced and shown a Chrome livery sponsored by Google Chrome.
Yeah.
A splashes of Chrome livery, I would call it.
Yeah.
That they're going to run at the British Grand Prix and the British Grand Prix only, I believe. And it's a throwback to their old livery. What do you think about it?
Okay, I was thinking about it, and at first I liked it, and then I went back, looked at the old one, because he had mentioned this mentioned this to me before the podcast, just to look it up. And so I looked at the one that they teased, or they showed today, and then the old one that they based it off of, and I wish they had just copied that with the colors, because, like, the silver was all the way down the nose, or the chrome was all the way down the nose in the old one.
Yeah.
And I think that looks a lot better than the orange all the way down. I don't know. It's okay.
Yeah. Also,
they're what was it called? The Three Kings or Three Crowns?
Triple Crown livery.
Triple Crown livery. That one was a lot better to me.
Because that's the 3 Triple Crown of racing. So it looks exactly like a 2017 livery that that Force India had. I think that was the year. Let me see if I can find you a photo. Yeah, here we go. Look it up because I'm not sure if I can use this either. But like, it looks a lot like that. Oh gosh. So, that's back. Those cars had some interesting front wings. Man.
Yeah, I was like, what is that?
Yeah, no halo. So I would give this like a 5, and the 5 is for the effort. The fact that they left black on the car or orange, I know why they did it because of the weight, and apparently FIA has a thing about like you can't redo your whole livery every so often because of sponsors, and like they have the graphics.
Yeah,
we're graphics people.
I wish they were allowed to do that.
I do too, but we're graphics people. Like redoing a whole car ruins every graphic.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
But I think it's safe to say the community is disappointed by how it came out. So, what would you rate it if you're listening to this? I would give it like a 5. Triple Crown livery was like a 9 for me. So
yeah, I'd give this like I like it. I'd give it like a 6.
It's better than the regular.
Yeah, for sure.
The regular's like a 2. So, I don't know what we originally said, but I hate it more each day. So.
This guy on Twitter says, okay, I don't hate it, but there's not nearly enough chrome. It looks like they started wrapping the car chrome and then just ran out.
We've got to go to the store, get some more tinfoil.
There you go.
That's how they talk in England. Speaking of which, I am going to the British Grand Prix. I leave in like 12 hours. It's longer than that. I leave in like 18 hours. I'm really excited. I'm going to post this, so ask me anything. I will answer any questions about Silverstone because it's the home of Formula One, and I want anybody that hasn't been there. I'll try to answer your questions, take pictures of it, whatever. So drop that in the comments.
Yep.
I'm very excited. I'm going to vlog it, and I can't believe that I'm going. Like, it doesn't feel real that like I'm going to the race. So I'm like excited and nervous, and I want Lewis to win, and I know he's not going to, and like all this stuff. So come on, give us what the people want. Give us a 3 British guys podium.
Oh yeah.
Of any order, except for Lewis wins. Of any order. And just imagine. I just want the moment
you have to have a Red Bull double DNF. Well, maybe not.
It's got to happen eventually.
Maybe not a double, but
at least a DNF.
Yeah.
It's got to happen eventually, right? Here's
you gotta have max DNF.
Perfect scenario. Here we go. Red Bull gets 1-2 in the qualifying. I'm like, all right, this sucks. And then we go home and they wreck each other in the opening lap, and boom, a whole new race has started.
Oh my gosh.
How incredible would that be? Just think about the amount of people that could fight for that win. I mean, even throw Lando in there now. It could be like 8 people going for this win.
That's true.
So, I don't know. I'm just hoping for a good race. And
can we make a separate track for Red Bull just to like drive around in and let the actual competitive driving happen on the real track?
If they get P1, if they get anywhere in the top 5 of qualifying positions, just go ahead and give them 1-2 and just let us start from there.
Yeah.
It's like we're all driving around at F3 out there.
I mean, honestly, even because Checo has been even pretty far behind Max in most races.
But he came back and got a podium in this race. Okay, P4 plus.
Oh no, I'm just saying if Checo's in there, you can leave him. I think.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I hope they hit it. Someone needs to hit them and
just
safely
take them out
safely. I don't want them injured.
All right, hear me out, Logan Sargent.
Yeah. Do it for America. Just imagine that he like qualifies 5th by some miracle. Yeah. He just goes straight and slides and takes him out into Abbey. Oh man, that would be something. So I'm really excited. I don't want it to happen because then I will never go back probably, like maybe. Yeah. And I will almost definitely, if I go back ever, never see Lewis Hamilton drive at it again. So the moment I'm looking forward to the most is when Lewis first comes out on the first practice day.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
crowd goes like, ah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be crazy. So
those are always featured in, what's it called?
Drive to Survive.
Yeah, they always show those. Those seem like a great.
I was reading online today because I was looking up like how are the facilities. Like I was looking up stuff to like do they have food, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and they were like. It has the best atmosphere. Like this guy that goes to like every race every year and writes reviews, he says it has the best atmosphere of almost any race. So I'm like,
that's good.
Oh my God. So anyway, I wish you were coming.
Yeah, me too. But I know you'll have fun.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's about it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, all that good stuff. Be on the lookout for my vlog, which I've decided I'm going to edit on the plane home. So hopefully in 8 hours I can turn out something good. And also apologies for next week. Our podcast will probably be late because I'm getting home on like Tuesday and I have work on Wednesday. I'll probably be groggy, so we'll get it out sometime next week. But hopefully the vlog will take place of when this normally comes out. So yeah,
sounds good. We'll see you later.
Bye. To England I go.